I want people to feel included. I want people to be able to be vulnerable enough and safe enough to share their best ideas. That to me is when we've achieved the end goal.
Madison Avenue has long been one of the most coveted industries in America to work for. But today, advertising stands among the masses, anxiously waiting the end of the pandemic while competing for talent in this great reshuffle happening in the US job market. We sat down with Julianna Akoumouh, Chief Culture Officer and Head of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion at Havas North America, to get a closer look at the year that unfolded at this agency group. This is what she had to say.
My name is Julianna Akoumouh, and I've grown up in the States, a number of them. When I think about where I've grown up, it's a lot of everywhere. I've taken a lot of my influences and learnings about people from all of these different places, which has been a very interesting experience.
So backing up real quick, what is your role at Havas Group and what's your role specifically in DE&I?
So I'm the North America DE&I lead. So I work really closely with our global talent leader as well as agency CEOs to help them bring their DEI efforts to life in all of our initiatives and making them successful.
When do you feel most secure?
I feel most secure when I can be vulnerable, when I can be my complete self, where I don't have to explain myself, where there are people who get me. I worked at a few different organizations. I learned about, again, leadership and what it means to lead a team with kindness and what it looks like when that's not present. From a skills perspective, I learned a lot about different organizations where I might be placing candidates. So just learning from candidates about what they value in culture and what their experiences were from agency to agency across the country. But when I really started focusing on creative organizations and agencies, I really started to understand the difference between brand organizations versus advertising agencies, and that's where my interest started to peak around advertising agencies. But I really didn't have that experience years before. I don't have as much experience as some of my peers even, but it definitely taught me about the culture and just what the talent, what they're like, what they do like and what they don't like.
Gotcha. And so when did you make that move into advertising, and what was that first lead?
When I moved to Boston, I started at a creative staffing agency, and one of my client contacts was a creative director. I never placed anyone at that organization, but about a year and a half later, when I had moved on, that creative director reached out to me to say, hey, we have a recruiter position that we need filled here. Would you be interested? I was super excited at the chance of working in-house at an advertising agency. It was my first one. I just thought it was so cool. And the position just came to me. I think that creative director, though, it's worth saying that he was the type of person that I think is a dream in this industry, who sees underrepresented talent, seeks them out, builds connections, and works to identify opportunities where they might be able to come in and contribute. That really set up my career to be where I am right now. And that agency and the leadership and the CEO there were absolutely responsible for my growth at this point and being where I am right now.
Well, Havas Group US specifically put out what was called a Commit to Change pledge. In it, the company shared a survey that indicated that about 35% of the company was non-white, but as you move up into the manager and executive levels, you start to see that white employees make up 71% of people managers and 75% of executives. So a year later, what changes will we see when you revisit the numbers?
I'm really optimistic that our numbers will be better. They could not have gone in the opposite direction with the level of attention and focus that we've had in every agency, with every leader, with every open role. So I'm really excited to see the progress that we've made. I know that it will be in the right direction.
What change do you expect to see at Arnold in the next 6 to 12 months?
As a group, we're very passionate about culture, people, providing a good environment for folks. So I'm hopeful that over the next 6 to 12 months, the idea of this agency as we set out in early 2020 will become more real than ever, more exciting, and a place where people are just excited to be, and we have lots of great opportunities for people. That's my hope, and I think we're on our way. We are working at that every single day, so it is exciting. It's one thing to recruit talent into the organization, but we're trying to tackle being an inclusive organization from all of these different angles. So it's recruiting, it's identifying the talent that you have, recognizing them and setting them up for success, focusing on retention and the support around people, and continuing to evolve and push ourselves and be accountable and keep pushing for change and progress. And it comes from every single talent angle that you can imagine. But that's what committing is all about, is just looking at all of those things consistently for the long haul.
Are there any other, tactics that you think have been left unexplored, or that you really want to see explored in 2021 and beyond?
Great programming, better communication allows people to be more successful in delivering their end of the bargain of change.
For your organization, are you ahead of schedule? Are you on track? Or are you behind where you believe you should be with DE&I?
It's a tricky question because I am ambitious, and I will always want us to be ahead of whatever schedule someone might set. We have talent in-house, and we are promoting people and giving them the support that they need, and I think that will help us quite a bit. And just recognizing talent, valuing them, and giving them the support they need to be successful.
What would be one piece of advice you would want to give a mentee who's starting out their career?
I think the one piece of advice would be to just have the understanding that your career is something that you are responsible for pushing. And no one cares more about your career trajectory than you.
That's excellent advice, and it can be easy to take for granted, or sometimes some people really do need that nudge. So I'm really grateful for you putting that out there. It's our last question, I promise, but not necessarily the easiest one. Let's close out with gratitude for this last year of work. What are the 3 biggest wins that you're most proud of?
The first, I am really grateful for the women of color being added to senior leadership positions within the organization. And I'm so happy to not be the only at such a senior level. The second thing that I am grateful for is, and I was talking about this earlier, all of our employee resource groups and their leadership. I'm very grateful that the work that I've done over the last year in terms of sharing an approach for employee resource groups and sharing a framework for DEI initiatives and audits had been received. I think there, in my experience in the past in other organizations, I might have questioned if what I was sharing would be adopted, and here I've been received with very open arms, and I think that is a wonderful example that I like to share with people, because it means that other people can share their ideas too, and that there is a captive and receptive audience for good ideas that help towards progress. I'm really grateful for being in an environment that allows for that, and is open to trying things a little bit differently. As long as there's a good idea, there's a willingness, and that is valuable.
And that's it. You're off the hot seat.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you for the wonderful conversation, as always.